if you can only own one motorbike when living in Vietnam, what should it be? I think it should be the Honda XR 150. And in this video, I'm going to show you how the XR is good at commuting to work, how it's good for traveling across the country, and how it is good for learning to do off-roading. It's a huge amount of fun, this motorbike. Interestingly enough, it's not popular on the Vietnamese market, and that's most likely because it's not sold directly by Honda themselves. It's actually through import companies. It is also bigger than the average Vietnamese bike, so they're a little bit scared and intimidated by it. But it's by no means a big motorbike. And the Honda XR is actually made by a company called Honda Senduro, and that is a Chinese company. So yes, this is made in China, but it's still an incredibly reliable machine. And it only costs $3,000 with a second-hand value of around $1,400 to $1,600. It's an unbelievable machine for the money that it costs. So here we go. I'm going to go drive this around the city and show you why I like it. Okay, so here I am with my Honda XR City Commuter, all geared up with a jivvy box for putting my helmets and anything else I want to put in there. Right, so the XR is quite a big looking bike, especially to someone who's new to manual motorbikes, but it is incredibly gentle and soft. The clutch is not on off, on off. It's a very smooth, controllable motion. In fact, it's less on off and on off than a Honda Winner, for example. So it's going to be easier to control in traffic, and it's nice and light. It's not going to tire you out. So one of the big issues with scooters is they are just so boring. And so the XR is a way of livening up your commute to wherever you're going. It's a lot more fun to drive. But where this bike really shines through is the ability to eat up the potholes, especially if you're regularly using the bike to have a pillion on the back. So if you have a scooter and you hit a pothole hard, your passenger's going to complain, especially if it's your wife. But this bike just soaks them up. No complaints, they all go away. And you don't really even have to slow down for potholes, it just takes it in its stride. Now that's down to its dual sport, soft, bouncy suspension, and also the big wheels and tyres. Yeah, hitting these bumps and things, it doesn't vibrate and rattle around like the scooters do. You just drive straight through. In fact, it's actually fun to drive through them. Same if it floods, it's going to be fun to drive through a flood. So when it comes to this bike in traffic, and is it too big? No, it's actually pretty light. This is 148 kgs. It's not going to be really any heavier than some of the scooters out there, and you can park it around, chuck it around in parking lots, no big deal. The plastic is bendable, foldable almost, so you don't have to worry about getting scratches on it. You don't have to worry about people sitting on it, playing with it, you know, the way the security guards do. It is an indestructible, cheap dual sport motorbike. There's nothing really to care about. So the big downside to the Honda XR as a commuter vehicle is you have no splash protection from water. So even if the road is a little bit wet, you're going to get some splash up onto your shins, and that is annoying. Oh, next video, why the XR is the best city bike in Vietnam. Jesus. It really is good. Alright, just setting up my Honda XR to go to Cat Tien with the wife. Take off the jivvy box and let's throw on my Krieger gear. It's going to go on like that. And then check this out. I'm going to put the rack here. So we're going to put another bag on there. So we've got loads of space to go on. So in Vietnam, if you want to drive something bigger than a 150, you need to have an A2 license. So it's the reason why it's become so popular for rental companies, tour companies to use. This basically wiped out the Honda Win, and the Honda Win wiped out the Minsk, and now we're all on this. And it's a great bike for traveling because it's super reliable, and then even if it does break down, it shares parts with some of the local bikes, so you can still put it right again. The only real downside is you have to carry the inner tubes for this wheel size. But it's comfortable, soft bouncy suspension, pillion is going to be happy, a lot of fun to drive, lightweight. And the locals are impressed by it. They'll come and show some interest in your bike. As you can see, you can really pile this up with luggage. Usually tourists put racks on the back here to have yet another bag if you want. And you also do the jivvy boxes. You don't really need anything bigger or more powerful than this. It just fits in, does the job. I think the only reason to get something larger is if you really are an experienced motorcyclist and you want something with a lot of power. But you know, for a weekend trip, for your average rider, this is just so easily enough. The next logical step up from an XR for traveling Vietnam is the CB500. And that's because the CB500 is a very cheap ADV motorbike. I mean, there's a huge price gap between the XR and the CB, but that is the logical step. There's not a lot in the middle, especially not popular in the middle. Well, I'll give you an example. When I was traveling the Ho Chi Minh Road with a friend, I was on the CB and there was a traveler on an XR. And I said to him, you can stay with us if you can keep up. And I expected we would just lose him straight away. But he kept up and he traveled the entire Ho Chi Minh Trail, keeping up with us. And why was that? Because the Ho Chi Minh Trail was one car lane wide. It's not wide enough to actually go fast around all of the very, very tight turns. So the end result was, yes, we lose him on the straight and he catches us up on the corners. He actually goes around the corners faster than us. And that was one of those moments where I clicked just how good the XR is on mountain roads. If you're traveling on an XR, you just got to get your head around the 150cc number. Put this aside. It's not important. This is a good bike. It will do any road you can throw at it and you're going to enjoy it. So the XR is such an amazing dual sport motorbike. You can drive on the road to wherever you want to go and then head off into the forest. It's really, really good for that. And for most people in Vietnam who have got into off-roading, we started on a Honda XR. That's certainly how I started and had a tremendous amount of fun learning on this bike. You can do anything on it, wheelies, jumps, donuts, long journeys, tough journeys. It's all there in this one bike. So right now I'm going to show you a couple of things that this thing can do and how you can learn on it. First off, I'm going to show you that a 150cc motorbike can wheelie. Not only can it wheelie, it's great to learn to wheelie on. So one of the great things about learning how to wheelie on a small bike is a wheelie is all about the compression, not the power. So it forces you to really think about that. You don't just power wheelie your way up. It's got no brakes.
Oh yeah.
Thought this bike was the wheelie bike. So that's the second thing about learning to wheelie is you have to use the back brake. And for me there, the back brake didn't work, which is why I went over backwards. But now I know where it is. And that will do. And you can go further and further. So the logs is also all about the compression. Compress. That was a good one. Okay, that'll do.
Yeah.
So the next thing you can learn on one of these is a donut. Put your foot nice and far out, lock the steering wheel. It's quite a cool party trick. So as I've demonstrated, the XR can do everything and you don't need to hit a track and do jumps of this and that. I just wanted to prove what this bike can teach you and what you can learn on it. And you keep in mind, this is a bike that you can use in the city to drive to work. You can take it across the entire country and then you can hit a track like this and go off drops and jumps and do a couple of wheelies. Like that's an incredible feat for one basically $3,000 reliable motorbike. I mean, what an amazing machine. And that's why, you know, all the companies are using it. We all love it. I learned on an XR, everybody learned on an XR. It is just such a great bike. This particular XR that I've got here has got a few modifications. It's got bigger wheels. So the back has gone from a 17-inch stock up to an 18, and the front has gone from a 19-inch stock up to a 21-inch. A few advantages there. You can put any tires on it from off-road motorbikes around the world. It's a normal off-road motorbike tire size. And also bigger wheels makes it easier to go over obstacles, basically. This bike also has a rear sprocket that's bigger than the OEM one. I'm not sure exactly on the size, but it is bigger. And it's also got a bigger front sprocket. And that basically gives you more acceleration, more torque, and makes it easier to do wheelies and accelerate off. But you can do all of this stuff on a stock XR. You don't need to modify it to do these things. It just makes it a bit better. We've also got Race Effects handlebars on here. The stock handlebars will bend when you drop the bike. And if you go buying Lazada ones and so on, they also will bend. So we just go all in and get proper motocross bars, then the bending is done, out the way. You don't have to worry about it anymore. Same story for the bash guards. You get the cheap ones, they just keep breaking when you drop the bike. So we've put proper ones on our bikes. I recommend, and then you got a phone mount, but more or less it's stock. Apart from that, the wheels are a great upgrade if you want to do it. The mirrors, we've got a double take enduro mirror on here. That's because, again, if you're dropping the bike all the time, you're just going to break any normal mirrors. These are basically indestructible, and they also fold in and out. So when you go off-roading, you can take them off. Also, with mirrors, when you break them and they have little studded metal balls and you crash and you land on one, that's not good. It's much better to have some flex. So double take, very much recommended. The XR is an amazing motorbike for a very small amount of money, and it is a bike where you can learn to do many different things and have a lot of fun on. I love the XR, and I would recommend it to absolutely anyone.